In today's video, we're going to go over how to diagnose where your groups are landing and what is going wrong within the shot. What do I mean by that? Basically, if you have low right arrows, high right arrows, left arrows, high arrows, low arrows, whatever they are, whatever direction the flyers are going, I'm going to give you common faults that cause those issues, so that way you can help diagnose what is going on within your shot to hopefully fix that and prevent that from happening in the future. For those of you that are new here, my name is Jake Kaminsky. I'm a two-time Olympic silver medalist in the sport of archery, and we're going to make this channel a great resource to all types of archery. So if you haven't yet, hit that subscription button and the notification bell. That way you're notified every time a new video is uploaded. I'd appreciate it. So I'm seeing a common need out there for trying to assimilate why you have high shots, low shots, right shots, left shots, and what causes them, so that way you can work on preventing them in the future or try to figure out what is happening now, so that way you can put in the time and the effort to fix the faults and make that not happen again. I'm going to share with you my experience, my personal experience, and what I have heard after listening to several people talk for years and years and years about arrow impact points, what causes them, and this is hopefully going to help you guys at home. So we're going to go over the four different directions that you can hit: high, low, left, and right. And then I'm going to give you common faults and fixes. And if you have a combination of two, oftentimes it is a combination of two issues. So I'll go over some other common issues where I see like a low left or a high right shot as well, just to add that information into this equation, so that way hopefully it'll help you even more. So a lot of these issues are related to recurve style archery. However, a lot of it will translate to compound, especially with bow hand position, bow arm issues, things like that. But in general, most of this stuff is geared towards recurve or bare bow. Anyway, a high shot. What would cause a high shot? Many different factors, but we'll just start with the obvious. The grip position. If you have more pressure down low than you ever have any other shot, chances are you will hit high, because what that does is it wants to rock the bow back and it wants to kick up as it's delivering the arrow, and that will affect the trajectory of the arrow. Another thing that I've found to make your arrows impact higher is the change in finger position and finger pressure on the grip. More index finger curl, I find I hit higher than if I have more bottom finger curl. Now, this might be different depending on each individual specific shooter, but in general, more finger curl on the top means you're going to hit higher. Paying attention to your finger pressure and your grip pressure is going to be important in your vertical impact point. Now, if you're not shooting with a clicker and you're shooting bare bow and you're hitting high on the target, chances are you have more draw length than you usually do. And more draw length means more power behind the bow, more power behind the arrow rather, and it's going to push that arrow faster. It's going to hit higher. So for example, every inch of draw length that you pull the bow back, roughly right around 28 inches of draw length, you're going to gain about 2 pounds of draw weight. So even something as small as a 1/4 inch change in draw weight will affect the bow's poundage by quite a lot. So roughly what you're going to be increasing the bow weight by with just a 1/4 inch change is somewhere in the neighborhood of 4 ounces of draw weight. And 4 ounces of draw weight might not seem like a lot, but our arrows barely weigh 4 ounces as it is. So what do you think that's going to do when you're shooting long distances? If you're shooting 50 meters, 70 meters, 90 meters, or even indoors at 20 yards, a 1/4 inch of draw length change is huge as far as impact points on the target, especially indoors. If you're shooting big, heavy, slow arrows, you're going to see more variance of your impacts at those close distances. Other things that can cause high impacts is not having your jaw shut. If you're a recurve archer and you're anchoring under your jaw, or a compound shooter anchoring under your jaw, if I've seen a fair amount of people shoot with their mouth open, not necessarily their lips open, but their teeth aren't touching. And so I see a variance in their essential peep height. It's less common on compound shooters because you guys have a peep, but sometimes people will misalign the peep just slightly and not notice that that's happening. The high impact points can be one shot your mouth is open more than the shots previous. So that's something very easy to fix. Just make sure your teeth are touching while you're at full draw. That'll make sure that your peep height, essentially on a recurve or a bare bow, does not change. Now, bare bow is different. You're anchoring a little higher, but if you're using the bottom part of your jaw as a reference point anywhere, your vertical impact point will definitely be affected by how you have your mouth and jaw positioned. So we're going to move on to low impact points. What would cause low? It's generally the opposite of what I just said. A more pressure into the pivot point of your grip compared to the pressure point will make your arrows impact low. More bottom finger curl, you will hit low. Shorter draw length, you will hit low. Creeping, you will hit low. Collapsing, sometimes you'll have a tendency to hit low, although you'll hit another direction. We'll get into that in a second. So those are all fairly common things that are just the opposite of what I've already said about hitting high. Now, other factors that would make you hit low is dropping your bow arm dramatically. Also, potentially hitting your arm or your chest with the string as you let go. That can make some low impact points, although it does make it go another direction as well, and we'll cover that in a second too. But in general, it's just the opposite of what hits high. It's pretty simple. High and low is actually is the easiest thing to decipher. Other factors that can cause you to hit high or low would be obvious elevation changes if you're shooting different angles. If there's a headwind versus a tailwind, that can make you hit high or low. And in my experience, in general, if you're shooting a tailwind, you're going to hit higher on the target. If it's a headwind, you're going to hit lower on the target. How much of the wind and how strong the wind is pushing on your arrow will affect the variance of how high or how low your arrow impacts. And a lot of that actually will depend on the actual environment around you. So in my experience, when there's always those canopies that are behind you on the shooting line for like a World Archery style event, if there's just a light breeze coming from behind as a tailwind, I find I actually hit low. And I believe it's because the wind is coming up over the canopies and then it's crashing down onto the field, and your arrows are just starting to come up at that point out of the bow. And so I believe that the wind pushes my arrows down just a little bit. So if it's like a 5 mile an hour wind or less, typically if it's a headwind or tailwind, I actually will hit low on the tailwind, high on the headwind. But once it gets above that 5 mile an hour threshold, I actually start hitting the opposite, as you should be. The tailwind makes you hit high, and the headwind makes you hit low, because it's essentially either speeding up or slowing down the arrow in the wind, so you have more or less wind drag, basically, to vary that impact point. What would cause you to hit right? Now, when you make mistakes, this is going to be for right-handed shooters. So if you're a left-handed shooter, just mirror what I'm suggesting here. It'll be much easier that way. Up and down stays the same, right hand, left hand. Left and right is where it has to be mirrored. So I'm going to explain it for right-handed shooters. If you're left-handed, just simply reverse the direction. So what would cause a right impact point for a right-handed shooter? Now, typically, there are several things, but the first and most obvious is canting your bow. If I cant my bow towards the right, I will hit towards the right. So if you're looking from behind me, the target's this way, and I cant my bow towards the right, the top limb towards the right, I will impact right. Opposite left is true. So to the right, that'll make my impact point go right. String alignment. If I lose my string alignment and it's changing throughout the shot, and the string is moving left compared to where it should be, I will impact right. The string alignment is your rear sight, so it's the opposite of what we are used to on our front sight. If I'm impacting right, I am moving my string to the left. Other reasons that can cause you to hit to the right would be a weak shot, a pluck, a collapse, creeping on the shot. All of those things will make you hit right. A weaker shot generally will hit right, okay? So, and that even includes your bow arm. Something that I learned a long time ago, once I really started focusing on maintaining a lot of strength and structure in my bow arm and focusing on my reaction of the bow arm after the shot rather than the release side, I found that when I collapsed on this side or I plucked on this side, I was also collapsing my bow arm, and it was collapsing towards the right. So like I said, a weak shot, your bow will be moving towards the right. A strong shot, it will move towards the left. Ideally towards the target, but it will still break slightly to the left due to the forces that are exerted on our bodies from the bow. So, like I said, weak shots, plucking, collapsing, creeping, all of those things will make you hit to the right. Now, I do believe, in my experience, when I collapse and I pluck or something along those lines, I will hit slightly high as well. So not just right. So I won't hit just the 8-ring to the right. I'll hit maybe 8-ring to the right at the top of the 10 height, roughly, give or take, when I do have some sort of a weak shot. Once I eliminated the bow arm side of things, I then only hit straight right. So what would cause left shots? Left shots would typically be the opposite of right shots, with the exception of a few other added things. Top limb to the left, canting to the left, you hit left, okay? Moving your string to the right makes you hit left. Throwing your bow arm to the left, or that bow kicking to the left, will make the arrow go left. You need to make sure you're driving that bow forward to prevent any right or left impact influence on the way that the bow is jumping out of your hand. So trying to control how the bow jumps out of your hand using your bow arm is going to really help with left and right variance. So I'm going to contradict myself here just a little bit on the weak shots generally go towards the right. If you have a weak bow arm and a weak bow arm structure, not necessarily a weak shot compared to others, but a weak structure, meaning your elbow is rotated up, your shoulder's a little elevated, and you're a little bit defensive on the bow instead of being aggressive towards the bow, you will typically hit left. And what will cause that is excessive string contact on your bow arm, or excessive string contact on your shirt, on your chest protector, or your chest, or something like that will definitely make you hit left. It'll also make you hit a little bit low as well, especially if you hit your arm or your chest protector, or if your shirt blows in front of the string as you're shooting. Those will all make you hit low left. Other things that can make you hit right or left would be hand position in the grip, torque on the bow, things like that. So it's always important to really make sure you maintain your pressure in the grip. So if you were to hit left, you'd have more torque this direction towards the left, and hitting towards the right would be more torque towards the right. So that covers the general rules of thumb that I have learned over the years as far as what makes high versus low versus left versus right impact points, and how you can kind of monitor your grouping and your impact points on the target to try to decipher what is going on to help you prevent it. So if you notice you're hitting a lot right and maybe high right, you might be plucking or collapsing or creeping during the shots. So working on maintaining more back tension, more tension and direction through release and follow through, and not ending it on release will really help that type of fault. Same thing with hitting low left and hitting your bow arm and your chest all the time. Fixing those contact points will stop those low left impact points. Hitting high all the time because you have too much pressure down here and not enough contact up here, or vertical impact point variances because of torque induced on the bow vertically. Those are ways to eliminate those type of impact points. I would recommend making sure you're monitoring how you feel the shot went, verify the impact point on the target, and then make sure what you feel and what you see on the target are talking the same language to each other. If one isn't really making sense, then go back to the drawing board, sit down, analyze the shot, analyze the impact points, and try to figure out what's going on, and this will help you become a better archer. Hey, thanks for watching. If you like this video, consider hitting the like button, the subscription button, and the notification bell. And if you're interested in supporting my channel, head to my website, jakeminsky.com, where you can find information on Patreon, apparel, books, and digital coaching as well.